before Chet Holmgren would become the NBA's newest unicorn after being selected second overall by the OKC Thunder.
How are you feeling in this moment now?
Can't even describe it. I got 0 words for the 1,000 emotions that I'm having right now, but they're all very good.
Before Chet Holmgren would light Summer League on fire and announce himself as perhaps the cockiest player in the NBA. Before Chet Holmgren would have around 75,000 followers on Twitter, 135,000 followers on TikTok, and over 500,000 followers on Instagram at the time of this recording. Now, if you were cruising social media on Tuesday night, well, the odds are that you saw a bunch of comments gushing over the NBA Super League debut of Chet Holmgren. Now, this 20-year-old has yet to play a single game in the professional league, but he absolutely lit up the floor by scoring 23 points, grabbing 7 rebounds, dishing out 4 assists, and blocking 6 shots. That last one, well, it's a record. And it was also good enough to capture the attention of perhaps the biggest star in the league, and, well, soon to be hopefully a Toronto Raptor. Come on, baby, don't let me down. I'm talking about Kevin Durant. Also, I think he hooked up with Lana Rhodes, so, you know, the tarantula getting his paws on everything. Now, of course, when something like this happens, well, people, they're bound to overreact. And when it's a young kid who looks like Chet does, you know, thin as a rail, tall as hell, and white as a sheet, well, people tend to lose their minds. So how did a kid who looks like a stiff wind could knock him over wind up becoming perhaps the cockiest player in the league? Well, you're about to find out in our latest episode of Before They're Famous. Now, before we get started, guys, please remember to like, subscribe, and turn on them notifications. YouTube's getting awfully crowded, and sometimes you just might not find us. Now, doing those 3 things really helps us increase our visibility, so we appreciate all the support. You can even become a channel member if you really love us. All right, now let's get into this video. Alright, I'm getting old, guys, so I gotta take a seat. Now, Chet Thomas Holmgren, he was born on May 1st, 2002 in the city of Minneapolis, Minnesota. Now, as a kid, well, Chet, he grew up with 2 older sisters, and he took to basketball from an early age, thanks to his father, Dave Holmgren. Now, he's a former 7-foot-tall college player at the University of Minnesota, who appeared in 57 games for the school in the late 80s, and who also passed his immense size onto his young son. Now, unlike most parents of talented kids, well, Dave, he didn't want to be the one who had to push his son to the limits to achieve something special. He simply wanted to be, well, his dad. So with the help of a friend, well, he heard of a local coach by the name of Brian Sandifer, who had been successfully developing raw talent on the court, and he brought Chet in to be next. Now, when Brian first laid eyes on Chet, he says he didn't see a future star. In fact, after Holmgren showed up in cargo shorts, a polo shirt, and a blow cut, well, Brian wasn't even sure if this scrawny 3rd grader would make the roster. Now, he simply looked too frail and too weak to do it. And as Brian put Chet through the ringer, well, it became more of a challenge for the kid. In fact, Chet, he told Bleacher Report, "I cried after the first week of practice, every practice. I just couldn't handle it. But the way I was born, I've never really been somebody to take a hit and just lay there. I'll get hit and I'll get back up." Now, while Chet kept plugging away, well, he didn't play much in those early years. Now, at home, Dave, he taught Chet how to play as a big man, like how to box out for a rebound and avoid fouling with your body when going in for a block. Now, meanwhile, with Brian, well, Chet, he spent his time playing like a guard. Now, little by little, well, Chet's skill set continued to develop, and while he might not have been a prolific scorer at this point, he was beginning to put things together with the help of his teachers. Or as he put it to Bleacher Report, "They turned a pile of bricks into a house. Actually, I wasn't even a pile of bricks. I was whatever you make bricks out of." I think the answer there is stones and concrete, but don't quote me on that. Now, in the 6th grade, well, Chet, he headed to Minnehaha Academy, which is a Christian private school out in Minneapolis. Now, he was 6'2" at the time, and he spent the first part of the season rehabbing a broken right wrist. So he used the injury as an opportunity to expand his shooting range. He wound up utilizing this time on the bench to not only refine his 3-point shooting, but his ball handling skills as well. Then between the 8th and the 9th grade, he shot up another 8 inches. And now that he was a literal giant, well, Chet, he saw more time on the court and became a defensive specialist while managing to put up 6 points a game. Now, here's where all that development finally began to pay off, because unlike most big men, well, Chet, he had been simultaneously learning about the tenacity it requires to be a big and the finesse necessary to be a guard. Now then in 2019, well, it came his chance to shine next to one of the most famous players on the planet. On day one of the 2019 Steph Curry summer basketball camp, well, Chet Holmgren, he would face his biggest test when he was tasked with guarding the two-time MVP, Stephen Curry. Now, rather than shrink away from that moment, well, Chet, he stepped up to the plate. Actually, that's probably the wrong analogy, because what he really did was block the hell out of Steph's layup. Looking to get him back, well, Steph, he punished the kid by pulling up from 28 feet and draining it in Chet's face. Now again, rather than, getting down on himself, well, Chet, he took the ball on offense and he used one of Steph's own moves against him, crossing him over and then dunking it on his face.
Everybody's matched up and I'm looking around like, where's the last person? And then I see Steph, I'm like, oh, all right, I'll go guard him. Never scared, never back down.
Now after the camp, well, Curry went up to Chet to congratulate him. Then the highlights reel, they started spreading. Now for the first time in his life, Chet, he got more texts and DMs than he could possibly respond to. Now his Instagram had shot up by over 500,000 followers in 1 week alone. Now for Chet, this was the moment he had been waiting for his entire playing career. Not long afterwards, in his sophomore year at high school, well, he had his breakout season, putting up 18.6 points and 11 rebounds per game to help Minnehaha win their third straight Minnesota to a basketball championship. Now, before that year, well, he had just 2 scholarship offers, but afterwards, he was considered the #1 center in the class of 2021 and the #4 player overall. So offers, they started pouring in from Kansas, Memphis, Florida, Minnesota, and the school he'd ultimately declare for, Gonzaga.
So next fall, I will be a Gonzaga Bulldog.
What's with Gonzaga, Minnehaha? Yeah, Americans, you guys are running out of the names for cities, right? Now in his college debut, well, Chet, he put up an impressive stat line of 14 points, 13 rebounds, 7 blocks, and 6 assists against Dixie State. And over the rest of the season, well, he went on to record 13 double-doubles. Heck, he even recorded 117 block shots in one season, which was enough to tie the school record held by Brandon Clark. Sorry, Brandon, didn't mean to butcher your name there. Brandon Clark. Then during 3 games in the NCAA tournament, well, Chet, he scored 39 points, he grabbed 40 boards, and he blocked 13 shots, including 19 points, 17 rebound double-double, and that was against Georgia State. His team did make it all the way to the end of the March Madness tournament, but Chet, he had proven enough to become a certified NBA lottery talent. Now, many were wondering if he would become the first player in Gonzaga school history to get drafted #1 and Chet's basketball future, well, it was suddenly looking brighter than ever before. During the 2022 NBA draft, the Orlando Magic, they would select Paolo Banchero with the first overall pick. Man, them NBA drafts, they always remind me of Hogwarts with the bells and the guy up there looking like a bit of a wizard. Anyway, but Chet wouldn't have to wait much longer because with the second pick, he went to Oklahoma City Thunder. OKC has been in rebuild mode for a while now, basically ever since Russell Westbrook and Paul George went their separate ways. Now, over the years, well, they've brought in more draft capital than any team in history, and now they've got a certified unicorn on their hands with Chet. Now, the only question that remains is whether or not this 7-foot, 195-pound frame, well, it'll hold up against grown men. Well, his first NBA Summer League has more or less put an end to that conversation. Even though he was going up against the 7'6" Taco Fall, we made it before they were famous on him, a funny one. Anyway, Chet, he dominated the floor as oohs and ahs rained out from the crowd with each impressive three-pointer and block. Now, in the end, the Thunder, they had won by over 20 points, and big stars like Kevin Durant, who himself is a former OKC player, well, they took notice. And when told by media that he had set a Summer League record in blocks, well, Chet's response, it was legendary. I'm coming to break it again. Now, as it turns out, the Thunder, they might very well have found themselves the NBA's newest, most overconfident and cocky player, but those two things are far from a detriment in this league, and all that remains to be seen is how far Chet can take his career. Now, of course, we're going to have to wait and see, and we're rooting for this guy because he's plenty entertaining. But hey, it's been a while since we've done an NBA Before They're Famous. I quite enjoy these videos. I quite enjoy these stories. So hopefully we can be doing more of those. But you guys got to let us know who to do next in the comments down below. My name is Michael McCrudden. See you guys in another video.